Mhm.
We all have moments of unconsciousness. We are
Mhm.
here having a human experience. And so, in this time of the great unraveling, many of those things that we have looked outside to receive will start to understand, what does it feel like? And
Mhm.
we will be asked to come inward and to come together as a people. That does not mean that this is not, or that this is a comfortable process.
It's just time to turn inward. We have the answers to everything we want. It's back inside.
And
Mm.
as we connect in community in a different way to meet some of those needs, we're going to start to wake up more and more fully to the importance of being resourced within ourselves.
So, welcome to the Michelle Chalfant Show, Jennifer Dawn.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who is joining us today. What a gift and a blessing that we get to come together today in this way.
Again, is this your second or third time here? Second?
Second time on the
I think,
podcast. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, you've been in the community in other ways, but
Mhm.
so grateful to have you here. I just love you as a human. I think you know that as a mentor, a friend, a guide, a teacher, all of the things. You're all of those things to me. And I'm so grateful to have you on today to have this really beautiful conversation about what's going on in the world. So we're honored to have you today.
Thank you. Thank
Mhm.
you.
So I had asked you to come on the show again because I've been hearing from a lot of people in my different communities, and I'm talking about from the membership to my coaches to even some of the courses I've been teaching. I'm getting a lot of the similar questions to even what's going on outside of my business, outside of anything to do with any of these places. And people are asking this question, and they have been asking this question for quite a while now, but what is happening in the world? People are saying, again, this is not about politics by any means. This is, in my opinion, bigger than that conversation. But there's a lot going on in the world right now. And it at times feels very challenging. So let's start out with what is happening on this great planet of ours. Let's start there.
Yeah, a beautiful place to start. And
Hmm.
I know that that question echoes in the hearts and the minds of so many right
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
I actually want to back up just a little bit here to share that for those whom I haven't had the honor to work with before, um, I'm coming to you today in a deep place of reverence for where we each are at right now,
Hmm.
in great awareness of the amount of suffering on the planet, the amount of uncertainty, and also the amount of love. And this is a time that many of us, myself included, are stepping more and more fully into what and who we are here to be at this time.
Mm.
So I have had the honor in this whole life of walking in support of others, whether that's been in the role as healer, spiritual guide, spiritual companion, oracle. But what I am stepping into more fully now is what I'm really here to be, which is wisdom keeper, and claiming that space so that I can support the awakening of that wisdom that really resides within each of us. And so when you ask that question, like what's going on in the world right now, what I'm inviting is an activation of the wisdom within each of you who are listening to this podcast today.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you dig deep, if you dig beneath the fear and the uncertainty, there is a part of your deep wisdom that knows there is actually great purpose with all that is unfolding. So I just want to invite everyone to feel that for a moment. Now
Mm.
we could step back and we could say to you, this is a time on the planet of the great unraveling. But what
Mm-hmm.
does that mean? It means that it is essential as a species that we repattern some of the ways that we have done things that have become so distorted in so many ways. And the word distortion, as I'm using it, is not a form of judgment. It's just an acknowledgement that many of our practices have become separated from the health and well-being of our planet, separated from the health and well-being of ourselves, our families, and our communities. And so what life is doing as she endeavors to self-correct, she's asking us to unravel some of what we've created and to start anew. And Michelle, you and I have had the opportunity to speak to some of this together, but I want to share it with all those who are drawn into this conversation today. If each of us think back to 150, 200 years ago, we can remember that at that time, we held a personal responsibility for taking care of our elders, of tending to our own needs. We collected our own wood. We made our own food.
Mm-hmm.
We helped each other as a community. We would tap into, what do my neighbors have available? How do we share? How do we support one another? But we were very connected to how we were engaging life. And over the course of time, since that time, we started to outsource our basic needs so that we were buying food from sources that we didn't even know. We were
Mm-hmm.
reaching toward a medical institution and leaning into that as the source of our well-being. And then we created lives that made us think like, oh, I have to keep working so that I can afford these things that are outside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And what has happened is we've become disconnected from the earth, from this incredible earth mother that holds us, that supports us, that carries us through our days. We've become many disconnected from our bodies. We've become disconnected from life. And so, in this time of the great unraveling, many of those things that we have looked outside to receive or to find a sense of our needs being met, in the time of great unraveling, we'll start to understand, what does it feel like when those things are not as available in the same way? And
Mm-hmm.
we will be asked to come inward and to come together as a people to better meet those needs in a way that is in greater harmony with our intrinsic well-being, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and in harmony with the earth. And that is what is happening right now. That does not mean that this is not, or that this is a comfortable process, because it is not a comfortable process. So let me pause there, because I
No, I
bet we're
love that.
stirring up some questions here.
Yeah, no, when you were speaking, I just kept feeling this. The words that kept coming from me were, or was that it's just time to turn inward. We have put so much focus out there, and I'm pointing, for those of you who can't see me, I'm pointing outside of self. So for resources, for fun, for purpose, for sense of self, for all of it. And the truth is, the answers to everything we want, it's back inside. So, what I'm hearing you say is everything that's happening is this great unraveling, and it's causing us, or its purpose is, if you will, is to cause us to, or create this um, uh, focus of self, or turning back towards self and getting to know self again, and not so much out there.
Right. If
Yeah.
we really reflect on it, we'll notice that there is a way that we've been conditioned to look to something outside of ourselves for answers. And for many of us, that has been like looking to our leaders to have an answer, or to look up to, feeling that their guidance, their wisdom will trickle down, and then we'll be safe, we'll be okay.
Mhm.
And what we're going to watch, and we're going to see a lot of this globally over the course of this year, we're going to watch our leaders fail.
Mhm.
And I know that may be hard for some people to hear, so I'm just letting that land.
Mhm.
Whatever is true for you, you can take that in. Whatever doesn't feel true for you, you can toss that. But as we notice our leaders not be able to meet our needs, we will turn to one another. We'll
Mm.
come together in community. We will support each other differently. And
Mhm.
as we connect in community in a different way to meet some of those needs, we're going to start to wake up more and more fully to the importance of being resourced
Mhm.
within ourselves.
Mhm.
And so when we start to touch upon, how do we navigate this time? What are the tools that we can reach for in this time of great unraveling?
Mhm.
What I would invite is that each of us come back first to relationship to self and inquire honestly and compassionately and lovingly, how am I supporting myself right now?
Mm.
What are the actions that I can take in my life so that I am as fully resourced as possible right now? For some people, it's imperative that we step into uh, practices of stillness. We exist in a time where we are being inundated with information and with to do lists.
Mhm. True.
And our great work is to find balance in that, to find room to prioritize stillness. Now, for some people, stillness can be meditation, but it doesn't need to be. For others, it could just be 5 minutes in nature. It could be just connecting with the earth. It can be listening to something soothing or supportive. It could be taking a bath. Those are all examples of stillness practices. And it isn't just stillness that resources us, right? Connection with others also resources us. When we connect with others in meaningful ways, we want to look at, how am I connecting with the people in my life?
Mhm.
When my sweet daughter comes up and hugs me from the side, do I stop what I'm doing and turn and receive and
Mhm.
engage and be fully present with that embrace that supports all that beautiful oxytocin and feelings of connection and feelings of love? When we receive a phone call with a friend, can we stop what we're doing? Can we commit to not scrolling while on that call and be so fully present to the opportunities that are there to more deeply connect? Because when we deeply connect, when we
Mhm.
bring deep presence into anything that we are doing, we will be resourced by it. It will become energy generative rather than something that is requiring more and more energy from us. The same is true when we prepare a meal. Can we prepare that meal with reverence and presence? Can we make it joyful?
Mm.
Can we be present with what we're doing? Can we hold gratitude for the food that we're preparing, for the waters, for the animals, for the plants, for the farmers, for the soil? Can we be present with all of that? Because when we are, we will be more deeply nourished and sourced.
Mm.
Examples of how to resource self at this time. They're just little examples. There's so many. So I would invite everyone who's here with us today to really be reflecting, what are the practices? What are the moments in my life where I can deepen in presence so that I might be more fully resourced at this time? Then we want to expand that practice. We were just talking about resourcing self, but now we want to expand and we want to think about our families, the people that we love and hold dear. So, not just blood families, but your family, your tribe, the people that you care about. How are we taking good care of our people right now? Are we being compassionate? Are we engaging in deep listening? Are we hearing what's going on for the people around us? Are we able to stay present when someone we care about is in deep suffering? without slipping into stress or deep suffering ourselves, but remaining in compassionate presence. That is something that each of us are being asked to build within ourselves right now. The capacity to be present and to look in the eye the suffering that is happening on the planet right now is an essential quality for us to build within ourselves without getting lost in it.
Mm.
We want to hold that strong ground of compassion and presence and love. And at the same time, we want to be able to vision beyond to that beautiful world, that more beautiful world that we know is possible. This is an essential quality we're all being asked to build right now. And then we want to extend that practice further still. So we've talked about being really resourced,
Mm-hmm.
self. We've talked about being really present and engaged and loving with those we hold dear. We want to extend into our communities. How am I showing up in my community right now?
Mm-hmm.
So often I hear and work with people who are in deep grief and sadness about something that's happening in the world. Perhaps they're feeling the suffering of an immigrant right now or someone who lives in Gaza. And they will say, like, I can't even do my work. I am so paralyzed by the grief inside of me. I just feel like there's nothing I can do.
Mm.
And to this, I would say, look to your community. Look at what is within your reach. Is there not suffering within your own community right now that could benefit from your loving presence? Is there not someone within your community that could use a helping hand in some way? And we want to be able to look within to what is resonant for me as an individual. How am I drawn to engage in my community? Is it an act of volunteerism? Is it an act of activism? Is it just simply being, and I say simply, but it isn't simple or small, to be in prayer space, offering an intention or a prayer for the well-being of your community, whatever it might be. No act is irrelevant right now. Any loving intention that we offer is so deeply meaningful, and it counterbalances the acts of unconsciousness that are unfolding on the planet at this time.
Mm.
Every conscious act of love matters.
Mm.
Every conscious act of love. And then we want to extend this practice further still to the greater health and well-being of the planet, of the world. How am I taking care of the planet? What are the choices I'm making that reflect that I value the health and well-being of our earth
Mm.
and of the people on this planet globally? And again, that can be through prayer, intention, acts of service, sending donations, whatever aligns with your heart. That's what we want to be doing right now.
Mm. You talked about someone that might be living unconsciously. Give an example of what that might look like.
Well, in all honesty,
Hmm.
we all have moments of unconsciousness.
Uh-huh.
no matter no matter how evolved we endeavor to be, we all slip into those moments of unconsciousness.
Hmm.
Isn't it a moment of unconsciousness when we're not fully present with someone who's reaching out to us? Isn't it a moment of unconsciousness when we slip into scrolling,
Hmm.
when we could be reading something meaningful or engaging with someone in deep presence? Those are acts of unconsciousness. But there are also more overt acts of unconsciousness on the planet right now. And so when we talk about unconsciousness, what we're talking about is any expression of disconnect from the greater truth of our unity, the greater truth of our connection, the greater truth that if I do harm to another, I do harm to all, and myself
Hmm.
included.
Hmm.
It is unconscious when we forget that truth.
Hmm.
There are many acts of unconsciousness unfolding on the planet right now. that are a reflection of separation. Did that answer your question?
That does. That does. And that you brought up a great point. I think about Graham and I yesterday were just having a conversation around this actually. We went to lunch and then we ran by the grocery store and we were talking about how after we left the grocery store, we were standing in line and the girl was checking us out and bagging groceries and everything. And we were talking about how unconsciously humans in general, but we were talking about us, of course, like, gosh, I noticed that when she was bagging my groceries, my phone was in my pocket and I pulled out my phone and I said, why am I looking at my phone? There's no point. That's that unconscious, wait, there's a pause. So let me fill that pause or that moment that I have with my phone. And Graham's like, oh my gosh, I do it all the time. So we made that decision together. We said, let's be really, really intentional about anyway, we got in this whole
Mhm.
we dialogued about how just being human, we do this if you're waiting in line and you're getting a meal or a coffee or whatever the heck you're doing, we very quickly now grab our phones and pull them out and pull up whatever text, email, social media, the news, sports, whatever the heck it is, stock market. And is it really necessary? And that it's so unintentional. It's filling this beautiful space of the moment. And then it seems to drag us right out of this beautiful moment, even if the moment is watching someone bag my groceries. It's a beautiful moment. And I instead put my phone down and I made the decision to continue my conversation with this lovely woman. And we chit chatted and we had a nice conversation. And I thought that felt so much better to me than looking at my phone. It was not necessary. My phone didn't even go off. There's no reason to pull it out. But it seems that, and I looked around the store, the grocery store, and I thought, everybody has their phones in their hands. We're filling these precious moments with a phone that it takes us, it yanks us right out of the moment all over again. So yeah, and the resourcing is so important. And it seems that as time goes on, we have these incredible devices that connect us, like a phone. My one son right now is in South America, and Blake just last night, how beautiful we were able to FaceTime on WhatsApp. I was like, this is the best. So it can connect us, yet it also is the most disconnecting thing that we have in our world right now. And it feels like it's only getting worse.
Michelle, it's such a beautiful awareness, and I think you're naming this really exquisitely because I would imagine that many of the people joining us today can really relate on
Mhm.
some level to what you're
Mhm.
speaking to. And what I want to back up and look at together is what's the opportunity in making a different choice, a more conscious choice.
Yeah.
Right now on this planet, there is so much grief. There is
Hmm.
so much suffering.
Yeah.
There is so much hardship. There is so much challenge. And certainly there are the more overt examples of that.
Hmm.
But I have an opportunity, and you have an opportunity, and many of the coaches who are listening to this have an opportunity to know that at
Hmm.
the minute level, this is true as well. And so when you take a moment and you engage in presence authentically with the person who is checking out the grocery,
Hmm.
you are giving a gift to that person. You do not know their story. You do not know what they are going through and what it has taken for them to get to do that work that day. But I guarantee there is not a human being on this planet right now that doesn't have a story, that isn't walking through some level of uncertainty. And so when we offer a moment of presence, and they often will say to us, again, I'm using the example of, at the grocery store, they will often say, how are you doing today?
Hmm.
And they're not necessarily expecting that you're going to stop and look them in the eye and say, thank you for asking. Very often when people ask me that, I like to stop what I'm doing and actually engage and answer them really honestly.
Hmm.
Because when I do that, I'm inviting within them a moment of self reflection as well. And very often, the answer to that question is not fine.
Right.
What would
Right.
happen
Right.
if we were committed to answering even that, just that little moment more authentically? What if we said, thank you for asking? You know, as I reflect on that, I'm kind of all of it today.
Yeah.
Right? Like what happens when we do that? We invite that in another.
Yeah.
When we invite a moment of awakening or self-reflection in another, we are sourcing each other in a beautiful and very different way. And if we back up again
Mm-hmm.
and what's this whole conversation about? This whole conversation is about what's going on the planet right now.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've talked about is what's going on is an unraveling that is inviting new ways of being. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what we're weaving into this conversation is example after example after example of new ways of being that
Mm.
foster more connection, that are energy generative, that source us from within. So even these small, small things like taking this moment while checking out at the grocery store can be a moment that fills you up more completely rather than just going through the motions. Got
Mm-hmm.
to do things differently. That is what life is asking of us at this time.
What's the goal, would you say, that we're all going for? Is it to live in more balance no matter what's going on out there, out in our world? Is it to live with peace? Is it to live like is it to feel our emotions? Like what do you say to somebody when they ask you that question?
A great question. I would answer it in two different ways. I mean, the honest and authentic answer to the question, what is the goal?
Mm-hmm.
The goal is to anchor and embody a higher level of consciousness on this planet. That's
Okay.
the goal. The opportunity that is presented before us right now at this time of great unraveling
Mm-hmm.
is to choose to live in greater balance that will naturally result in more peace on this planet.
So I'm thinking of some people that I know. I'm thinking of some people I don't know that well. I'm just going to say this. I'm a single parent. I'm overwhelmed. I am not making enough money. All of these things are happening for many, many, many people. Um, I feel fear. Again, this is not a political conversation, but let's be honest. Some people are happy about the current president and some people are unhappy. And the last president, some people, it was the same exact thing. Like we're always going to have people that are happy or unhappy. So the goal, though, is not even to be happy or not happy, right? It's to stay in balance, regardless of, again, what's going on out there. And what do you say to somebody, though, who's saying, I'm worried, I don't have, um, I'm worried about my job, I'm worried about, gosh, being deported. Like there's so many things happening in our world. And this is not just the United States, in our world right now. What do you say to people that are scared? And I understand it is about resourcing, but what else? What else can we do?
I am having those conversations every single day.
Mm-hmm.
It is the greatest honor to sit and hold space with those who are actually in their deepest experience of suffering, whether I'm sitting with
Mm-hmm.
someone who lives in the Ukraine, whether
Mm-hmm.
I am sitting with someone who is fearing deportation every day. In those extreme situations, our opportunity is to embody absolute compassion, to listen and
Mm-hmm.
be present with their experience without trying to talk them out of it,
Yeah.
without trying to spiritually bypass in any way what is going on, but to sit in deep presence and witnessing of what they are going through, of being courageous enough to be engaged in that conversation. That is what they need from us when they're in the most extreme situations right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's
There's
what they
no fixing. No, you
right
can't fix it, but we
now.
can sit with them
Yes,
and allow them to express.
that's right. And then if we are talking about what about when someone is expressing their fear, a fear of losing a job, or maybe they've just lost a job, they're
Yeah.
unemployed. many, many, many people in that position right now. And what we want to invite again is a deep presence and listening and compassion. And then we want to always invite a remembrance. What is the next most empowered step
Mm-hmm.
that any of us can take? We want to remember that, especially when we feel powerless to what is happening around us, when we feel powerless to our outward circumstance, our greatest opportunity in that experience is to come back so fully into ourselves where we can literally connect. What is the next most empowered step I can take? And maybe it is as simple as I'm going to get a glass of water right now.
Mm-hmm.
We sometimes we need to do that. We need to take baby steps to remember. I
Mm-hmm.
need to come back to what is within my
Mm-hmm.
control right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
We have to reel it back as far as we can. And
Mm-hmm.
that will give us baby steps just along the way of our own experience, that helps us shatter a field of powerlessness, because that's what happens. The intensity of what many people are experiencing, the intensity of their lived experience is so visceral that the lenses of our awareness are just like, this is what's here, this is what's real, there's nothing I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as we come back to, okay, what is the next most empowered step I can take? What is the next most empowered step I can take? And we do this over and over and over again. We start to shatter that field. So
Can
we
you?
can't go from 0 to 100 miles an hour. How do I get my job back? That's not going to be a realistic option for many people.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to come back to just one step at a time that leads us on the path to what ultimately we are desiring to create. We
Okay.
want to remember ourselves. We are here on this planet as co-creators.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is that life is going to continue to give us different experiences. And our
Mm-hmm.
role in the formula of co-creation is to respond to what life is presenting before us. And every time we remember to just take the next step, we are aligning with the highest potential of our co-creation.
So we need to get out of the way. When I hear you say that, it really is the ideas that we have from our mind. My path needs to look like this, or this, right? We need to let that go and take that. I call it living on the illuminated path. It's like, what's the very next step that's lighting up right in front of you, right here, right now? That's the next step, and let everything else go. We don't need to know what's coming, right?
It sounds so easy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if we just put those words to it, it's like, oh yeah, just let it go.
Let it go.
It's so hard.
It is.
It is so hard when we are deep, deep, deep in suffering
Mm-hmm.
and when we feel like that is the only truth. And so I just really want to honor that it
Yeah.
sounds really easy to just let go. And yes, at the highest expression, you know, if we've done a lot of personal work, if we've really like had stillness practice and we really worked to build our consciousness, then yes, we have more resource within us to
Mm-hmm.
be able to get real curious and go, huh, all right, I just lost my job. So I'm curious, what is this about? So that is possible. There are many of us who live that way, but that is not where everyone is at. And I really want to honor the spectrum of where we are each at on kind of in our process right now on
Yeah.
the planet.
Yeah.
So I would say more people are in on the level of the spectrum where something outwardly happens and it just is very jarring and very unsettling. And again, yes, I would love to just say, well, just let it go and keep walking. But I want to
Not so
honor,
easy. Yeah.
right? I want to
Yeah.
honor how challenging that is,
Yeah.
and that there is an opportunity in these hardest moments
Mm-hmm.
to surrender more deeply to what is unfolding before you. We cannot force something to be different than it is. I hope
Mm.
that you hear this. I hope our listeners hear this, because that is the treadmill or the hamster wheel that so many people get on in their lives, is being stuck in a loop of wishing something were different than it is. And
Mm.
every time we are in that loop,
Mhm.
we are literally creating suffering for ourselves in our life.
That's good.
Every time we want something to be different than it is, we are on a loop of suffering. And as soon as we can
Mm.
step back from that and realize, okay, this is what's happening, this is what's unfolding. How do I want to respond to what is unfolding? I remember when the pandemic started, and I
Mm.
remember talking to my beautiful girls about how do we want to respond to what's unfolding. It was
Mm.
such a grief and an ache, especially for my older daughter at the time, who was a senior in high school,
Mhm.
about a feeling and a perception of lost opportunities. And we really dug in deep, and we really got curious, and we really framed our experience to what was unfolding by saying, okay, 25 years from now, when we look back on this time, how do we want to feel like we met it? And that's where we started. And that was a really meaningful practice. And I watched both of my these incredible young women, I watched them both decide to define their experience rather than to react to it.
Ooh, that's powerful.
As
Define your
hard as that
experience.
may feel. Yeah, please go ahead.
I know I love what you just said, to define your experience rather than react to it. Because typically, because of our ego, we have an experience, it's not going our way. And then we fight it, we react to it, we get angry, we drop into story around it, and we get lost in it then. That's typically what humans do. So, what you're inviting us to do is to do something a little different. So tell us again, walk us down that path. Instead of going down that path, instead we can do what?
I want to remind us, the whole point on the planet right now, the whole intention behind this unraveling is to support us to do things differently,
Mm,
right?
mm-hmm.
That's
Okay.
every time we do something different, every time we break a pattern, every time we choose consciousness, like,
Mm-hmm.
and we can think about in consciousness as every time we choose to act with intention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's just another way of
Mm-hmm. Okay.
defining consciousness. Every time we
Okay.
do that, we are then aligning with the highest potential of what is available to us at this time. So when
Mm,
we bring that into this example of what does it mean to choose to define our experience, choose to define ourselves in
mm-hmm.
relationship to what we're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
Every time we do that, we are rewriting a pattern of
Okay. Okay.
at a step-by-step way.
Mm-hmm.
Again, use the example of anything, any form of challenge that is unfolding in life right now. And oh my goodness, there are so many examples of this. What we want to do is be able, if we can, or at least try it on, dip your toes in these waters if you feel drawn,
Mm-hmm.
to step back and get curious. That is the first step, is like, okay, okay, okay. What is here for me to do differently right now?
Yeah.
If I look back on this situation years from now, how could I act right now in a way, in a manner that I would look back on at that time and be so proud? Are there courageous choices I could make in this moment? Is there a way that I could respond more lovingly to myself in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the questions that we want to ask right now. That's the opportunity that's here for us right now. And it's not always going to be available. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
is always available, but we may not always feel that it is available. Sometimes we're
Right.
just so in our reactivity that we can't reach for it. But what I want to say to that is that's okay. We are
Mm-hmm.
here having a human experience. So we're not always going to master these things every time.
Mm.
But what I would invite is you just try some of this on. Just
Mm-hmm.
try it on
Yeah.
and see how it feels.
You talked about, I want to talk about two different things, and I don't know where you might want to go first, but shattering the field and co-creation. Where do you want to go first?
Let's talk about shattering the field.
Yeah, so I'd love to have you break that down for people that may not know what that means.
Yeah, that means a couple of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was born seeing energy. So for me, I started to give words to energy that I would see, right? Like when someone's really angry, for example, they can be existing within a field of energy of anger. Or often I will find a field of confusion, right? And what it means is that we're having some kind of an emotional experience that flavors everything we are seeing and feeling around us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's like being kind of within a field of pervasive energy or emotion.
So would we think about, let's say, that our human energy field, the aura, the auric field, right? So you're saying there's a field of energy that's in that aura or in the energy field that is, let's say, anger, let's say frustration or hopelessness. It's an actual field.
It is. And if we want to talk about auras, I mean, there are many levels to auras, right? For people who have seen an image of an aura, um, you know, in whatever ways, either they've seen it themselves or have maybe seen a picture, you'll notice there are many layers. So there's the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body, the astral body, the etheric body. We have all these beautiful layers.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're talking about right now is we're talking about the emotional body.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
We're
So
talking
let's
about the
say in that body would be a field of hopelessness. So,
right.
okay. So,
And more often than not, you are an individual is not going to know
mhm.
what the field is. They may just know, I don't feel good,
Yeah. Yeah.
or things feel really hard right now.
Mhm.
And there is a beautiful, beautiful exercise that I can walk you through to shatter the field.
Yes, please.
We can always change a field of energy by making a big noise. That's one way to change
Oh,
energy.
okay.
So, slamming a book, clapping our hands, that's one way to shift a field of energy. But another beautiful exercise. Oh, this is so fun for me to share this with you. Just and where I'm sitting, I can't put my arms straight out, but you would put
Uh,
your arms straight out.
like this kind of straight.
And again, even if you're not able to name the feeling that you're having, and just you could name it discomfort, or
Mm-hmm.
I just don't feel quite right. But if you are able to name it, go ahead and name it. I am flipping mad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so mad at what's happening on the planet right now. Whatever it is, either name it or call it discomfort, but you hold the intention of collapsing that field
Okay.
that you feel in some way that you are constricted by, that you are stuck in. So take those hands wide out from your body, closing your eyes, imagining a field of energy. Some of you will be able to see a field. Some of you will just be able to connect with a felt sense. And you just slowly start to bring your arms together, bringing them together, bringing them together, bringing them together. And you might just let it go as slowly as it needs to go, or as fast as it goes. It may feel very thick. And then you want to bring your hands together.
Just like slap them together.
Yep. And
Yeah, cool.
collapse that field. And you
Okay.
just hold that for a moment with that intention of collapsing the field. And then I like to connect with an intention, because energy never, never, never goes anywhere. It,
That was my next
it
comment. Like, and tell
just
us where the energy goes. It doesn't go
it
anywhere. So what happens to it?
doesn't go anywhere, but it can be transmuted. And so what is the field you want to create? Right? I want to create a field of clarity.
Yeah.
And you open your,
Possibilities, openness,
there you
clarity,
go.
all the things. Yeah.
And you open your arms back out.
Hope.
Yeah,
Hmm.
right? Hopefulness, compassion, connection, connection to self, connection to other,
I love that.
and connection to spirit, connection. That is a very powerful exercise. So often when I'm um, teaching other healers different healing techniques. There's an idea or a notion of like, I got to get it right. How do I do this? And it's so beautiful for each of us to simply remember we are all of it. We can't get it wrong. What we're doing when we do an exercise like what I've just shown you with collapsing the field, what you're doing is you're simply giving physical expression to an intention. That's
Mm.
all that is needed to move energy. That's it. When
Okay.
somebody is drawn to like clearing their space and they're smudging,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter what you smudge with, or even if you smudge or do something else, but smudging is a physical act that reflects the intention, and that's why it works.
Of clearing. Ooh, that's good.
So
Thank
it's
you.
beautiful for us to remember it does not need to be complicated.
No, and I think we're not aware of how powerful we really are and how our intentions are very powerful. It's focused energy when we are intentional. We're taking that energy that we have access to and really focusing it on something. Um, and do you want to add anything about the power of intention or just how powerful we really are? And we forget, I think when we fall into hopelessness or life doesn't work out as we had hoped it would, we go into disempowerment, right? But we're so powerful.
And the deepest wisdom that we could possibly tap into together is to remember,
Hmm.
um, to remember. Some people think of the notion of God. Some people think of the notion of the sun as creator, whatever. It doesn't even matter what we relate to as the source of our existence. But let's just think of it like the sun
Hmm.
as the source, and the rays from the sun are who we are.
Mm.
It's that force, it is that energy that is here manifest as Jennifer, as Michelle, as anyone else.
Hmm.
And we used to know that. There have been times when we knew that truth, where
Hmm.
we lived that truth, where we embodied and walked in harmony with that remembrance, with ourselves, with the planet, and with one another. And again, this is a time on the planet of the great recalibration, the great unraveling. And what needs to unravel is the energies that have separated us from that knowing. There is a wisdom within each of us
Hmm.
that knows ourself as the creative energy that is here to express uniquely through each of us. So that creative energy, that source energy that I am, the
Hmm.
frequency that I run, for me to live that in my greatest expression is the gift that I am here to give this world. And that is true for every single human being on the planet right now. The
Mm.
greater connection we have to the remembrance of this wisdom, the more aligned, the more at peace, and the more on purpose we will feel right now. So that's what I would say about connecting, if you will, with intention is a part of remembering the truth of who we really are. Because when we remember who we really are, we remember that our thoughts matter.
Mm.
Remember that acting with intention or consciousness, acting consciously matters. It changes our entire experience of ourselves. It changes the landscape of our entire life. It changes every relationship we have when we
Mm.
remember this.
And that leads us right into co-creation. You're almost kind of there.
Yeah,
Talk
yeah.
about what is, that term has been thrown around a long time. What is co-creation?
At its highest expression, co-creation is remembering. Again, I keep coming back to remembering,
Hmm.
coming back to our deep wisdom. Co-creation is remembering that we are here to respond to what life presents before us. So
Mm.
very often people will ask me, like, how do I know something is meant to be? And my answer is always, you will know it is meant to be if it is happening right now before you.
Yes.
That means it is meant to be.
Yes.
And your highest potential
Hmm.
in relationship to anything that is unfolding before you is to respond intentionally in a manner that reflects who you want to be moment by moment by moment. So
Mm.
let's break that down in a
Yeah.
way that might
Yeah.
be more grounded for
Hmm.
our listeners today.
Hmm.
What does that mean? Like when someone is projecting, right?
Hmm.
Like when a
Hmm.
coworker is
Hmm.
projecting on me, what
Hmm.
it means is like, okay, that's what's happening, right? So that's what life has presented.
Hmm.
And life is presenting us some kind of an opportunity in that moment and in any moment, no matter what's unfolding, it is always, without exception, unfolding for us, not to us.
Hmm. Hmm.
Always.
Yep.
So our ability as a co-creator is to remember that truth and then to see, okay, how do I want to respond to what is unfolding before me? What response
Hmm.
from me will allow me to reflect who it is and I want to be and how I want to be?
Hmm.
Someone is projecting upon me. Can I hold healthy boundaries? Can I
Hmm.
advocate for myself?
Hmm.
Right? There's lots of different ways of responding. There's not a right way or a wrong way for each of us individually in a situation like that. It would be whatever our learning needs to be in that moment. So for some people, it may need to be holding a boundary, right? Where we say
Hmm.
to another person,
Hmm.
I actually care about you too much to have this conversation with you right now. I'm going to excuse myself. And so we walk
Hmm.
away.
Hmm.
For another person, it might be tapping into a compassionate awareness that this person before us is deeply hurting and
Hmm.
that whatever they're projecting may not be about us at all.
Hmm.
We hold space for that,
Hmm.
right? For another example, maybe just our ability to self-reflect, like, ooh, this person has a lot of feedback for me.
Hmm.
And I notice there's a tendency within myself to be very defensive.
Hmm.
I don't do well with criticism. So let me just see, can I receive what they're saying and then go into an experience of self-reflection, like to really go into self-inquiry? Are there some pieces here that are meaningful for me to look at and really being discerning? Yeah, there's a couple pieces there, but not all of it. Not all of that's mine,
Yeah.
right? So that's an example of many different ways to respond as a co-creator. All of them result in personal growth.
Mm. Okay.
We want to remember at the foundational level, your question is like, as a co-creator, what does that mean? At the foundational level, it means whatever is unfolding before us is unfolding for us.
Hmm.
And we always want, to the best of our ability, to be curious so that we're responding to what's unfolding in an intentional way.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jeez, that was fast. um, this was very good. Very good. Is there anything else that you feel that we did not cover today? I mean, there's a lot.
All right. Does everybody have about 4 or 5 more hours we
Yeah,
could
right.
spend together?
Right.
I think what I want to say to all of the beautiful hearts, the beautiful people that are drawn to be with us today, you are here on this planet at this time with a unique and important purpose.
Mm,
I just want to say that again, like you are here at this time with a unique and important purpose. And every single one of us has an impulse right now to align more fully with that purpose.
Mm.
And that impulse manifests, expresses itself for
Mhm.
many people as discomfort. Like, I just don't feel right. I just don't feel like I'm where I want to be. I feel agitated. I have anxiety. I have depression. Like it expresses in many ways, but I want you to understand that beneath all of those ways that it expresses, there is an impulse within you that wants to dip into a deeper wisdom that knows that you are here with a purpose.
Mm.
And not everyone's purpose is the same. So there are those of us who are here right now to be activists. And there are those of us who are here right now to develop new ways of being, innovative, new ideas. And there are those of us who are here right now to embody and live an elevated consciousness that helps support and counterbalance some of what's happening. But every single one of us are here with a very meaningful purpose. So, again, if you take nothing else away from this talk today, please take the invitation to connect more deeply with yourself, with your loved ones,
Mm.
with your community, and with your connection to this planet. Because as you do, you will clear some of the distortion that allows you to feel the truth of your own purpose at this time.
Mm. Another thing that comes up for me when you say those beautiful things is that we cannot compare to anyone else because we all have a unique divine purpose.
Exactly right.
So when we start comparing to others, it's we're discounting the fact that no, we've got our own purpose. Don't think you've got it wrong because you're not doing what so and so's doing over there, or what so and so's doing on social media. No, no, no. You've got your own purpose. And again, the way to find that and to line up with that is to turn inward. That's where all the answers are.
That's exactly right. And comparison is one of those energies that
Mm.
perpetuates notions of separation.
Yeah.
It makes us not take action. If we feel like we can't do it the same as somebody else or as well as someone so and so is doing something, then we tend to allow that to be the reason that we don't take action to be who we are here to be.
Mm. So good. All right, my love. Where would people find you if they want to learn more about what you do?
Thank you. So you can find me on my website.
Oh, oh,
Uh,
you just froze up on me. Say
oh,
it again. You said you can find me at, and you froze. Say it again.
My website is jenniferdawn
Mhm.
dot love, and I'm sure that'll be in the notes.
Yes, for sure.
Show. And if you are drawn to tap into daily wisdom or periodic wisdom, I have a beautiful oracle deck that I'm
Mm.
so proud. I'm just part of a group of three incredible women who have created a deck that
Mm-hmm.
is available at illuminatedloveoracle.com. So that
Mm.
is a beautiful source of support right now, too, that really just connects with your own wisdom, that guidance
Mm-hmm.
that's deeply within you, and
Mm.
helps you have a source of that to reflect on each day or whenever you're drawn.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This was incredible. Thank you for all your wisdom today. We appreciate
So
you. Thank
grateful
you.
to be with all of you. So grateful to share this transmission, this energy. Thank you to everyone who's been with us.